بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Somebody came and asked a shaykh, he said, what is true taqwa? He said, true taqwa is that you're constantly aware of what Allah wants from you in every situation. Listen to me. Taqwa is که در هر حالت آگاه بودن از چیزی که خدا از ما میخواهد. که در اینمی حالت خدا از ما چی تقاضا داره. This is taqwa. That in every situation and in every condition, what is Allah asking of me? When I'm getting married, what is Allah asking of me? When I'm doing my business, what is Allah asking of me? When I'm dealing with my community, what is Allah asking of me? When I'm teaching, when I'm with my students, when I'm with my neighbors, what does Allah ask of me? In any given situation, what does Allah want from me? This is taqwa. And a beautiful example one shaykh gave, he said, I give you an example. There was once a king. Have you heard of Sultan Mahmud Ghaznawi? Sultan Mahmud Ghaznawi, he had one servant. And he loved that servant more than anybody else. His servant's name was Ayaz. Ayaz. And Ayaz, he loved him very much, even though he wasn't so strong. He wasn't so handsome. He wasn't so pretty. He wasn't so anything. But Sultan Mahmud loved him more than anyone else. And people were wondering why. People would ask why. So, one time somebody asked, he said, you'll see why. Ayaz is more beloved to me than anybody else. So they were going on a journey, on a trip. And on this trip, the king stopped, and there was a mountain, and on top of the mountain there was snow. He looked at the snow, the king stopped, all the soldiers stopped, and all of the ghulam and the servants were around. They were looking, the king looked up at the top of the mountain and looked at the snow. He looked at the snow and he then put his head down. For a long moment, he was looking at the snow on top of the mountain, and he put his head down in silence. He didn't say anything. So everybody's just waiting. Ayaz, quickly, he took a horse, he went up to the mountain, and he brought in a basket, right, whole thing of snow from the edge of the mountain, and he put it in front of him. So then everybody asked, he said, oh Ayaz, the king didn't say anything. What did you do this for? What did you do this for? So then he said that I saw the eyes of my king. That the eyes of my king was looking to the mountain. And then he put his head down. And I know that the king does not look to a direction until there is some wisdom and hikmat in that. حتی که نظر سلطان به دلیل و به حکمت نیست. نظر سلطان. The eye and the nazar of the sultan is not without any hikmat and wisdom. Even the sight and where the sultan gazes, there is a reason behind that. There's a siyasat, there is a diplomacy, there is a wisdom behind even the nazar. Because the king, the sultan, he does not even look at something which is of no benefit. Their eye is khas, exactly. Nazar khas. So he said that now you understand why Ayaz is more beloved to me than anything else, because he knows what I want and his eye is constantly watching me. He's always concerned about what I want. And the shaykh then mentioned, he said, this is the reality of taqwa. The reality of taqwa is a person is constantly looking at the hukum of Allah. What does Allah want from me at that moment in time? It doesn't have to be a loud announcement constantly. A believer is like Ayaz. And the example of Allah is like the example of the sultan. Constantly the believer, his eye is on what is Allah asking of me? What does Allah want from me? And it doesn't need for baseball bat somebody to take him, hit him on top of the head and say, now is the month of Ramadan, Gars. Okay, now you have to pray, Gars. Every minute you have to hit him on the head with a sota. And this is our example. A believer, he doesn't need to have a death in the family. in order for him to realize what is the purpose of my life. He doesn't need to get in a car accident and come in a near-death experience. Sometimes Allah Ta'ala, He hits us with these calamities to wake us up. A true believer does not need to be hit by a calamity, to be near-death experience, to suffer, to go through a calamity, to go through sickness, to go through some tribulation and musibat, in order to know, okay, what is it that Allah wants from me? His nazar is on the sultan without the sultan having to speak to him to the calamities and circumstances in his life. And the munafiq, the one who doesn't have taqwa, he needs every minute sota, He needs a sota to remind him constantly. What is your objective and what is your purpose? This is not a true person who has to. The reality of taqwa is what? What is taqwa? What Allah wants from me at any given moment. Just like Ayaz, his eye is constantly on the sultan. Ke sultan chi mekhwaye az ma? Zarur nist ko ba zuban bagoya. Az ishare chishmsh mifahma ke az ma chi mekhwaye. From the indication of the eye, right? Ayaz knows. He does not need a lecture and an explanation. This is taqwa. And that is why Sultan Mahmud, what did he say? This is why Ayaz is more beloved to me. And the people of taqwa, this is why the people of taqwa, Allah says, Inna Allah yuhibbul muttaqeen. Inna Allah yuhibbul muttaqeen. Allah Ta'ala loves the muttaqeen. Why? Because the muttaqeen constantly are thinking about what Allah wants from them at any given time. What a beautiful parable. What an example. Constantly, when we think about taqwa, we should think about the example of Sultan Mahmud and Ayaz. And why Ayaz was beloved to Sultan Mahmud. Why was he beloved to him? Because constantly Ayaz was concerned and thinking about what does my sultan, what does my king want from me? And a true slave of Allah is constantly thinking, what does my Allah want from me? At any given moment.